Now, there is a variation of the remove method where we have a single parameter instead of two parameters. What this version of the remove method does is that it's going to remove all of the characters from the starting given index. So instead of just specifying how many characters we're going to remove, we're just going to say from this point to the end, we remove all of those characters, not just a certain subset of it. So let's take a look at an example of how we would use that. So here we have a string. So in str, we're going to store the string Mark Twain. And then we're going to call the remove method, and we're going to pass just a 4. And what that means by definition is that we're going to remove all the characters starting from index 4. So where do we start? Well, M is index 0, A is index 1, R is index 2, K is index 3. So that means we're going to start this space and go all the way to the end. So we're going to actually remove the space plus Twain from our string. So we're just going to start the space and remove everything from the end. That's how this works. And what that means is we're going to store the remaining characters into, in this case, in first. So that means the first variable is going to have the string mark. Another method we can use is the insert method. And what we're going to find is this pretty much is the opposite of the remove method. So what we're going to do here is add characters to a string, or we would add like a smaller string inside of the original string. Just like the remove method, this does take two parameters. The first parameter is going to be an integer that indicates the index where we're going to add our characters. So think of it as saying we have some set of characters we're going to add. This is where we're going to insert them. And the second parameter is going to be the actual string of characters that we're going to add. So what's going to happen here is we'll say insert these set of characters in this spot in our string. And what that's going to do is the characters that come afterwards are going to get shoved down to make room for this string of characters. And just like all the other methods we've talked about so far, this is going to return a copy of the string. So we're not modifying the original string, but we're making a copy of the original string, inserting the characters, and then returning that as our result. Here is an example of how we would use the insert method. So we have our string, which is Mark Twain. So we're using our earlier example of Mark Twain. And then notice that we're going to call the insert method, and we're going to pass 0 and then the string author as our second argument here. So what that means is we're going to add the string author at index 0. And notice that there is a space at the end of author. So what we're really doing is adding author and then a space, and then we're going to have Mark Twain afterwards. And what's going to happen with Mark Twain is we're going to move all those characters down to make room for the author portion of the string. What this means is when we're done, str here is going to contain author Mark Twain. And I should mention here that in this case we are modifying the original string because we're going to take the copied string and store it back into the original string. So this is a case where we would overwrite it. Here is another example just to show that we could insert characters in the middle of a string as well. So in this case we have the string John Kennedy, and then our insert method is going to look at index 5 of our original string, and then we're going to insert the characters F, a period, and then a space. So what we're basically doing here is we're adding that string F period space at index 5. So where's index 5? Well, J is index 0, O is index 1, H is index 2, N is index 3, the space is index 4, so the K is index 5. So what's going to happen is we're going to insert the F after that first space, and then we would insert the dot and then the space, and then we would shove Kennedy over to be added right at the end there. So what that means is this string is now going to have John space F dot space Kennedy, or just John F. Kennedy. Here is one more example, but this one's a little different from what we've seen. This is what we call a cascading example, or we're cascading the insert method. What this is saying is we're actually calling the insert method several times, and the way it'll work is we'll evaluate the first call, and that's going to give us some result, and then we're going to invoke the insert method on that result to give us a new result. So let's just walk through this to see what's going to happen. So our original string is going to contain CS department. Yes, it's DEPT period, but I'm just going to say department because it's easier to say. But so our string has CS department, and what's going to happen here is notice we have str.insert, and then we're passing 1, and then umputer, and then we have another dot, and then the insert method, and then 10 and science without the S. This is perfectly legal what we have here. So what's going to happen is we're going to call one portion of this method, and then we're going to call the other portion. And this is always done from left to right unless there's parentheses involved. So what this means is we're first going to call the insert method on the string with the 1 and the umputer. And there's a space in there as well. And what this is going to do is we're going to add the string umputer with a space at index 1. Now index 1 is where the capital S is in our original string. So we're going to basically have C and then umputer, then a space, and then the S. So what we're doing here is at the end of this portion of our method call, this right here, we're going to get the string computer S department. So that's what this portion of the method is going to give us. So then what we're going to do is we'll call the remainder of our method. So we're going to call the next insert method on this new string. So we're not calling the insert method on the original CS department. We're now going to call it on computer S department. And what this is saying is we're going to add the science without an S at index 10. And in this case, that's going to be on the space immediately after the S. So we're going to shove the space and department over and then fit the rest of this word, science, I guess is what I'll call it. But this result is going to be computer science department. And that's what's going to get stored in str. So the final result is str is going to have the string computer science department.